So as you've probably guessed by the title, this video is going to be why I'm choosing to have amputation, which will be done in just over a week and a day. But to start off, I'm going to go through some of my background and what led me to make this decision. So, 2 years ago in 2 days, I had a motorcycle accident in Australia whilst on holiday, where I got hit by a car that failed to give way at a roundabout. It was quite a severe accident, as you can probably tell, and I was recovered from the scene and put straight into hospital, had multiple surgeries, reconstruction surgeries and broken bones and all of that fun stuff. And so I was lucky to be alive, lucky to keep my foot, and even more lucky that all of my surgeries went off without a fault and that I had no blood or circulatory problems, and that worked out great. But shortly after all of those surgeries occurred, when things were looking good, my muscles started to effectively misbehave. I started to get an inversion in my foot, which is when the nerves contract muscles without wanting them to, so they would contract themselves, which put a permanent tension on my foot, which twisted it. And over the course of the last year and a half, the year and a half since then, it's become worse and worse and worse as the nerves get stronger in some places and still don't grow back in others. So for the last 6 months, I've been waiting to see how the nerves progress before I intended to have another reconstruction surgery. But I had to wait till the nerves stopped growing before I could have it. So not too long ago, about a couple of months, we started looking at it, and the outcome of the reconstruction would be a fused foot, so it wouldn't move. It'd be fixed solid in place, and I'd have real big nerve problems in terms of sensitivity. And after looking at the outcome of the surgery, and after looking on YouTube and other such places about what it's like to be an amputee, I slowly, over the course of a month or so, 2 months, came around to the idea of having an amputation after seeing the amputation team at my local hospital and seeing what it truly entailed. So just a little bit more background into what my life is like now. So at the moment, I currently, until the last few weeks, I've had problems with ulcers. The last 2 years, I'll see if I can upload a photo at the end to outline some of the problems. Most of which were brought on by no sensation in the foot. So I didn't know. They're basically like blisters, but if you keep walking on them because you can't feel that they're hurting, they become a lot worse. And that's what I ended up with, a few ulcers and recurring problems as such. Nerve pains, which again have recently started to die down, but they will come back. They just won't ever go, nor will they go after an amputation. I currently have to drive an automatic car. I can't use a clutch, operate a clutch with my left foot being damaged. Other things I have to do is I have to use a crutch most of the time when I'm walking, if not two, and on walks that are like more than 5 minutes, I have to take a wheelchair. But all of those I've learnt to live with, and they won't change, which is quite lucky. At the moment, I have to wear a boot all the time, or else I can't walk. It's just incredibly painful otherwise. It still hurts when I'm wearing the boot, it just hurts less, where it holds my ankle in place, so it distributes my weight a lot better. So every morning when I wake up, I have to put on my boot, and before I do that, so when I have my shower, I can't walk, I have to hop everywhere. Which won't change after an amputation. I'll still have to hop everywhere. Which, again, was one reason why it made having an amputation a little bit easier. Yeah, the outcome of the reconstruction as well was I'd have to wear a orthotic shoe all the time anyway. So I didn't see it as that much of a disadvantage having to strap on a leg each day as opposed to a shoe, because I'd still be in the same boat, not being able to walk without putting something on my foot. And throughout this entire last 2 years, I've said to myself, I'll only let myself be as disabled as as you think, or you can only be as disabled as you think. And so for the last 2 years, year and a half, for the first year and a half, I've been not looking at myself as disabled. Just looking at things like they take a little bit longer or they're a little bit more difficult. And it's not until recently that my injuries have stopped me from doing things. However, now it's not a case of, I'm only disabled as I think I am. The reality is, I can't do things. And it's more, I don't know if it's because I've gotten worse since then, physically, or if I'm just more worried about the consequences of pushing myself than I am about just doing the things I want to do. For instance, a few months ago, I had gotten to a good point in my recovery. I'd stopped using a crutch, I'd got back to walking in normal shoes, so it's nice to wear a pair of shoes, and things were looking good. I'd still got ulcers, but they get bigger and smaller, it's just the way they go. And then I was walking ironically enough, to the shops, and just walking, no extraneous activity, and one of the bones in my foot just snapped. Just went. And that's the nature of walking with an inversion. And when I spoke to the doctors about it, I said, is this going to happen regularly? And the reality was yes. It creates a weak spot, which makes walking very difficult. And from then on, every time I had to walk somewhere, I looked at it as a risk as opposed to just want and need. Instead of going, I'd like to go and do this, it was then a case of, is my want to do it worth the risk of more damage? And at that point, my recovery started to turn bad. But I'm hoping, once I've had the amputation, because I won't be walking on a bad foot, I guess, or they're chopping off the bad bit or the damaged bit, however you look at it, that I won't any longer have those problems. I'll still have the problems associated with being an amputee, but I'll be walking on a good part of my leg as opposed to a damaged bit, which in the long run should be better overall. So across the next few videos, or few months, or however long I continue to stick with this, until I'm fully recovered, hopefully you'll be able to see me recover and get back to living the way I used to live and doing the activities I used to do and doing the things I like doing. And for anyone else in a similar situation, I hope the same thing. Everybody I've spoken to that's had an amputation done for either similar reasons to mine, or they had an accident and they woke up amputated from their injuries, has said the same thing, which is, it's not as bad as everyone thinks. You look at a person with no leg and you go, it must be the world stopped, but the reality is, you just look at it in a different way. And I think that's the important thing to remember. And anyone going through this same process just has to think of it as not a disability. I know people that have been disabled or are disabled, and that's not saying that they're not disabled, they are, but if you don't let yourself be disabled, it becomes less of an issue. You just become slower at things, or it takes you a little while to think how you're going to do it as opposed to just being able to do it. But I guess it goes back to the old saying, where there's a will, there's a way. And so long as you keep that attitude, nothing can stop you. And that's the important thing to remember. But a little quick note on the end of this video. This video will actually be uploaded after it's been made. But this video was made on the 15th of July 2015.